This is Computer Science Discoveries. We are in Unit 3, Lesson 17, getting into some more complex sprite movement. So let's see what this lesson has in store for you. We're going to work with more velocity again and see what happens if we want to have things gradually slow down or gradually speed up as they go through the draw loop. So let's see what we can find out. Level number 2. So here are your instructions. Using velocity with a counter pattern, meaning adding, subtracting, something like that. So it says using the counter pattern with the sprite's x and y property makes it move smoothly across the screen. In this program, the counter pattern is being used with velocity x. Okay, so instead of just sprite.x, it's saying sprite.velocityx. So you are supposed to predict what do you think is going to happen when this code is run. Okay, and you have to enter something in here and don't just put a dot in there. I look at that. Make a valid type of guess. So we've got some kind of sprite. It has a velocity of x that they're going to take that velocity and increase it by 1/10. What do you think is going to happen? So go ahead, put a guess in there, hit run, see what happens, and if your prediction is correct. When you get done with that, then go ahead and click on finish, which won't show up for me now because I'm not typing anything in there. And let's get on now into level number 3. All right, as you just saw, using sprite velocity x with a counter pattern will change the velocity during the program. So notice up here, as I'm looking at what I see in this code, the car's velocity is going to be set at 0.2. All right, so it's going to travel at a certain speed. We're going to practice a little of this. It says this program already makes a car move across the screen, but it's moving very slowly. Oh my stars, look at this. If this would cause probably road rage if you were behind a person like this. All right, it says use the counter pattern with sprite's velocity to make the car speed up. So let's see what they're talking about. Oh, and they said show me where. So basically they want you under this update the sprites, put it right here. So we want to use velocity x right there. It was called car. And here we want to use some math, and we're going to speed it up and use that velocity x again for car. And let's try speeding it up. Now, if my speed was at 2/10, let's start by just adding what's happening. Now, do you see, I've been talking this whole time, that car still hasn't crossed. Clearly, if you designed a game like that, your players would bail pretty quickly. Let's see what happens this time. Oh, it's starting to speed up. Now, if you start with a big number, it's going to go so fast you probably won't even see it. You'll miss it because it'll go by so quickly. So experiment around a little bit with this one. And when you get done, hit finish. Let's move on to level number 4. Not 13. Good grief. Don't be an overachiever. We're not skipping. All right, level number 4, a falling rock. The rock should speed up as it falls down the screen. Well, let's look. Okay, slow motion here. Can you use the same counter pattern, this time with velocity y, inside the draw loop to make the rock go faster and faster as it falls? Okay, so what we're going to do is do the same sort of thing with velocity y and make the rock travel faster. And can you make it spin as it falls? Oh, yes, we can. So here's where we want to put this. This time we're going to use velocity y. This was called rock, comma, here we go. And we're going to fall down the screen, zeros at the top, 400 at the bottom. So I'm going to add velocity y again. And let's see, this was traveling at 5/10 or 0.5. So I'm just going to put that in there. Okay, let's see what this looks like. Looks better. It might even be kind of fast if you want to tone it down a little bit. You could try that. Maybe we'll try 0.4. I don't know if that'll be dramatically different. The challenge was, can you make it spin? So let's do that as well. When this happens, as it starts to fall, now, do you want it here? Do you want it above? We'll throw it down here. Rock. Rotation speed. So rotation has to do with angle. I don't know if we start with 5. Keep in mind that inside the draw loop with the world frame rate of 30 times a second, let's see what this does. Oh, that looks pretty cool. Nice. Play around with that a little while and pause so you can work with that and then hit finish. Move on to level number 5. Let's see what this one brings for us. Here's the bubble. This is a bubble rising up in the water. Can you make it get faster as it rises? So use the counter pattern again for the y velocity and make it move more quickly. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. Velocity, it's vertical, so we need a velocity y. And I need some math. Oh, so now let's think here. As I'm traveling with the bubble, remember that it's going up on the screen. If the top is 0 and down here is 400, in fact, look at its initial y position of 350, and I want it to go up the screen. This time, gonna have to be subtraction. Velocity y. Be careful that you're making sure you're consistent with x or y when you choose your velocities, just because they look so similar, and it would be easy to make that distinction. So notice my velocity is negative. I don't have to put negative here though because I'm already subtracting. So why don't we just try 0.5? You hit run and play and see if you like that. Okay, or maybe you want to slow it down a little. Maybe you want it to go crazy levels. Play around with this one, pause me, and then when you're ready, click finish and start me up again for level number 6. Slowing things down. All right, so everything we've done so far, whether it's been the car moving across, the bubble going up, the rock falling down, everything has increased in its speed. You can also use this to slow things down. Okay, so this car is going to run into the water. What? Ah, that's no good. So it says we need to use the counter pattern to slow it down. Use the Sprite velocity x block with a counter pattern, okay, to slow the car down by 25 hundredths as it moves across the screen. So let's think about this, okay? What do you think will happen when the car finally stops? I don't know. So first of all, let's see what we've got here in our code. Okay, it said make it slow down by 25 hundredths. So it's moving horizontally, right? Velocity x is set at 10. So we're going to grab velocity x for the car, and we want it to slow down. So if it's going positive 10, we kind of want to subtract over here with that velocity x for the car. And they asked us to please use 25 hundredths. Okay, so let's see what happens. Oh, I gotta hit run. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. All of a sudden it goes in reverse. That kind of doesn't make sense, does it? Let's go back, look at our instructions here. Add code to make the car slow down only if its velocity x is greater than 0. Velocity x starts at 10. And here's what happens in the draw loop. Every single time that the draw loop is run, it's slowing down by 25 hundredths. Now, that doesn't sound like much, except that every time the draw loop runs, wink, wink, 30 times a second, then you're really having it slow down about 7.5 per second. So it only takes about a second and a half before it's going to reach that zero part. So I think what we have to do is put in a condition to say if, and we're going to say if this car's velocity in the x direction, okay, hello, I wanted you here. Oh, and I wanted math. Hold on. So let's see. They said if the velocity is greater than 0. Hint, greater than. That's this one. Okay, get that out of there. So if, and you have a greater than statement. Velocity, I'm going to get these directions out of the way now. Velocity x for the car. See, it's touchy. I even have a mouse and it's still a pain. All right, so if the velocity is greater than 0, we want it to do this. So I'm just dragging what I had already programmed in there inside the if loop. Now let's see what happens. What should happen is it's going to start slowing down, down, down until it gets to 0. And then it shouldn't happen anymore because before it was starting to back up, and that's a total mess. Score. There you go. All right. So you can use it to slow down by putting that negative in. What happens, it's going to keep doing the negative, which is why it was backing up. So think about, all right, what condition do I want so that it won't continue to keep going backwards? Perfect. Hit finish when you're done with that. And then let's conquer this last one. Here's a checkpoint at number 7. All right, we slowed down the car with sprite velocity x. Okay, it almost looked like the car was getting pulled to the left. Did it? I don't know. If you use the same pattern with sprite velocity y, it will look like your sprite, oh, getting pulled to the left. Okay, meaning it's getting slowed down. Now I understand. If you use it with the velocity y block, it'll look like it is always being pulled down, which is kind of what gravity does. All right, this is back to the rock. This rock is getting thrown up in the air, but you know our laws of physics say what goes up must come down. Use the sprite velocity y block with a counter pattern to make the rock slow down and then start falling in the other direction. Experiment with different values. Do you want the rock to slow down quickly or gradually? What looks realistic? All right, well, let's see what we've got here. Update sprite, so I know that I'm going to use the y velocity. And let's see, now I got to run this again. Oh yeah, it won't run because I'm messing with it. So I've got to do some math. Now think, if it's already going up, right? See, my velocity is negative. And so I'm going to add to it, which will tend to pull it back down. Zeros at the top, 400s at the bottom. So I'm going to grab addition for my sprite's velocity y. This was called rock. Now, here's where I want you to start playing with some numbers. So pause me and see what you come up with and what you like as far as what's going to happen here. Okay? Let's see. It was at -10. This is going to happen 30 times a second. So if you say something like, if you start with just a 1, let's see what happens. Oh, golly, it doesn't even get very far. That's not good. Maybe a half. Let's see if we like that one. Okay. play around and see what happens here. I don't really need the grid. Oh, that didn't get very high either. I don't like that. You keep playing around until you get to a level that you think looks realistic. Okay, so I'm at 3/10. I'm not even getting halfway up the screen. I'd like you to get pretty close to the top. Okay, and then just experiment. And when you get done, that's it for this one. Alrighty, fun now learning how we can speed up and slow down and make it look a lot more realistic than before. Good luck, happy coding, and may the force be with you.